Hey everyone, I'm Erica Bates and I am here with Doc Williams of Brand Factory. And he has a YouTube channel, Build With Me. And I love the shirt, by the way. I'm still waiting on mine. But
Oh, we got to get you one. I'm writing that down right now.
Doc Williams is an expert in all things SaaS and events and helping entrepreneurs make money online. So we're here today to talk to him about all that he does. How you doing today, Doc?
I'm doing good, Erica. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm glad you're here. So, how did you get started working with SaaS companies?
It kind of started first dealing with, well, you know what? I think it first started being in the startup world, kind of, and people needed help with their being like a chief technical officer, so like a CTO. They're looking for a CIO, a chief information officer, and that's how kind of I started. A client of mine was starting a startup, and it had to do with the components of SaaS. So I started with them. Actually, one was like it was a half event, half SaaS business, and then afterwards, someone inquired if I could be their CIO of another SaaS company. So that's kind of how I started working in it. I've always known around like software as a service for about like 13 to 14 years because I was obsessed with AppSumo. And so a lot of their companies, they're selling lifetime deals to predominantly it's all SaaS companies. So that's where I was constantly buying different deals and everything like that. And that was kind of like the beginning.
Well, I didn't know about SaaS until you told me. So,
Really?
yeah, you told me what SaaS was. You told me what not just software as a service, but software
Oh, SWAS.
yeah, SWAS also. That's what I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out, those SWAS.
Yeah. I love software with a service. Yep, exactly.
I learned about both those things from you. I've been a AppSumo fan for a long time, but I had no clue what software as a service was or software with a service was until I met you, Build With Me. So thanks for that.
No problem. I'm happy about that. Yeah. It's and I think almost it's like in that bubble. Most people like unless you're in startups and you hear like those terms a lot, it's not something that's like in the vocabulary that people call it. So it's more of showing people examples like, have you used MailChimp? Have you used this? Like, you've dealt with it. You might just not call it that. So, but I'm glad that you learned that. I'm glad it was helpful. The info was helpful.
Same with no code and no code automation. Yeah,
Ah,
learned a lot from you.
cool. No problem. No problem. Love to help. Love to help. So that's helping people.
Yeah, you're very generous with your information, and I appreciate that. So, how did you go from SaaS and moving into content creation? I know you said you had worked with a couple of SaaS companies doing CIO work. So, was that
Yeah.
included? Was content creation included in that?
Kind of, but it didn't really. Okay, so really my content creation. So going back like years and years ago, I've always wanted to do content. Um, but there's 2 points where I just stopped. So when I was going into college, before like YouTube was really big or anything like that monetarily, like my parents were just like, you need to get a job and stuff. So I was in college and I just stopped creating content. But I always created skits and just showing people how to do things. I just love videos. I love videos. So that came out when I was coming out of high school around '07. And then afterwards, I was actually going to start doing content creation around 2015. This is when I was a teacher and I was teaching at a tech school. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to just go and start creating content. And I'll never forget, like, he's a pretty big YouTuber. I'll just say his name. I don't have a problem. It was good. So his name is D for Darius, and he's really big into like he does photography. He's made an award-winning short film, and then he's done documentaries. He's really awesome. And so he's doing consulting at the time. I'm not sure if he even does it anymore, but I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna dabble and like, I'm gonna do some in YouTube and some everywhere. And he's like, if you're not 100% into YouTube, like don't start. Don't come here. It's too competitive. And when I heard that, I was like, well, I'm not going all in YouTube. And I just didn't. And so now I understand what he was saying. I wish he would have said it a little bit differently, because I would have been killing it by the time the pandemic happened if I just started in 2015. But I always tell people, like, you should start anytime. It's never too late. But then in the pandemic, so between 2015 and 2020, I was creating content only for my clients. So what you see on YouTube, it's almost identical. Of The production has changed a little bit. It's gotten a little better on production, but the information and the structure pretty much has been the same for 5+ years. Because when clients were wondering, like, what tool should I use? What would I like? All this stuff. I would just do walkthrough videos, and I would just keep them unlisted on my YouTube channel because I just didn't think anyone wanted that kind of stuff. I did other content around like 2017, but it just didn't catch fire. And it was around more tutorials, but business around fitness. There was just a lot of things I think that just didn't click. But then in 2020, when actually the end of 2019, I was telling one of my friends about all the stuff I did, and he's like, there's something, like, I think what you're doing is just called no code. And I think there's something here. You're just not branding it right. And I was like, really? People are calling it no code? Because I was just calling it Frankensteining stuff together. There was no term for it. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, okay, it's whatever you do. So that's when 2 years before, I was already into Bubble around like 2017, 2018, around that. I went to a Bubble boot camp. And then at the end of 2019, all these no code things kept popping up. And then in the pandemic, at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a program that just got started called 100 Days of No Code that Max ran. And a guy named Edmund was in it. And we were in Slack, and they had 100 days, and they're like, post your results. And I noticed people weren't posting a lot, but I've been cranking out videos at the same level for like 5 years. Like, all this stuff, what people are saying, like, seeing that I put up like 3 to 5 videos a week, like, I've just been doing that for 5 years. I just never made any of the videos public. So when I was doing that, Edmund's like, you have a lot of content. Like, maybe you should maybe you should make them public. Like, stop making them unlisted. I was like, I don't really think anyone would care about these videos. He's like, yeah, just make them public. And that's how, like, the content creation turned on. So, I mean, that's a longer story, but basically it was things that I already enjoyed doing. It was a format that I already enjoyed doing. I just really did not think anyone would care. And then if anyone is a fan of like Marquez Brownlee, he's awesome. He's a great YouTuber, and probably the biggest in like physical tech. And he's just done a great job with his brand. His first videos, he would just review anything, like his web browser, his webcam that he had. It'd be anything that he reviewed. He would do it for free. And that's kind of how the format started. I was like, I think I can do something like that, only for software, what he does for hardware. And that's where I was just like, anything that I was interested in, like building a streaming service, building a ride sharing app, building whatever, I would just make a video on that. And I just wrote out, at the time, I don't think I really wrote it out on a piece of paper, but I just knew what I wanted to talk about. And then I just made all of those videos. So 100 Days of No Code, I made close to like 300 videos in like 90 days or something like that. And then I was streaming every night for 40 nights. So I honestly, I underestimated. I thought I was going to be out of the house in 40 days. So I was like, I think this pandemic will be done in 40 days. So I thought it was just until I was going to get out. And so I just streamed every single night. I had already been using AppSumo, for years. So they're like, hey, can you, do you want to do something like that? So that's when I started doing tutorial videos for them. And that's kind of like how it started.
I really like your tutorial videos with AppSumo. Your time management skills are amazing. So yeah, I just got to throw that out there. Doing all of that seems like that would take some time. So you're taking a course, 100 Days of No Code. You're talking to admin in Slack about putting your videos out in public. And it seems like that would take a lot of time.
It is, but it's really not. And the reason I bring that up is time management. First of all, I used to have terrible time management. There's a book called Deep Work that really impacted me. And then I learned about bullet journaling probably like 2018, 2019. So the combination of bullet journaling, like really getting focused on like lists and then having timers, that what changed my life. Before I would just like, if I didn't want to do something, I would procrastinate, and then I would just like stay up for days on end, like literally possibly close to 2 days, just cramming things. Just wasn't healthy. It wasn't sustainable. So learning about deep work and shutting things off and focusing, and like also too, like creating video. I really tell people, create content that's easy for you to do. Like find a format that if you would do it, like if people aren't watching, you would still do the same thing. And I think a lot of times people focus on like a format that is like high production value, or it's just draining on you. And personally for me, I don't think I could sustain that level. And I think that's why a lot of YouTubers burn out, because of the format that they choose. So yeah, I think it's just timers and that book Deep Work, and then going from there.
All right. I like that. Now, a while I had burned out just trying to get guests on the show, and people saying that they would come and then they just not show up, even though I would send them reminders a week before, an hour before, 30 minutes before. It's like, oh, I didn't get it. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I talked to Chat GPT and I'm like, hey, Chat, can you tell me how my favorite 90s TV shows work? And it said it worked on seasons. I was like, oh, I can do seasons. And I was like,
Yeah.
what's seasons for like Friends? When did Friends come out, or when did Living Single come out? And it's like fall and winter. And I'm like, yes, I can do that. I can take the spring and summer off.
I
And
like that.
it built the shows. All the shows were never live. They were always pre-recorded. So I was like, I can do pre-recorded. I can put this out on a schedule. I can automate things because I love automation.
Yes, and we're going to talk about this. I think there's a huge opportunity for you coming up, because you love automation. So we're going to talk about this in a second. But yes, it's yeah, you can do all that stuff, and that makes a lot of sense. I think seasons are a lot more sustainable and it gives you a break. You
Mhm.
don't have to stress about it. So I love to hear that.
So not only that, when I'm talking to you, I know you're going to say something good. It gives me time to chop up this content and tease it out. It's like, hey, I got Doc Williams from Brand Factory coming up. He's going to be talking about SaaS companies, and I can
That's
just
fine.
drip that out. And I
Mm-hmm.
could make it like a video landing page, and it could link back to the video or my YouTube channel, whatever. I was like, I can do things like that. I feel like I have time to do that now without hurrying.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good actually. And that saves you more time and energy because you're repurposing. I love it. I love it.
Okay, so tell me about some of the SaaS companies that you got to partner with, and what made you want to partner with them.
Okay. That's a good question. So, okay. So I wrote down a list of every software that I use
Mhm.
and why I like it. And then I wrote down like how can I do either a webinar or a partnership with them. So, um,
Wait,
you
Doc, real quick.
yeah.
What is a partnership for you?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. Me making money.
Okay.
No, but the thing is, I always say like the partnership, I don't have to get like money up front. Okay, that's a great question, actually. This is really good. Let me think about this further. So a partnership, I think, benefits both parties, right?
Mhm.
The the SaaS or software as a service get something and I get something. That can be either monetarily, that can be a source of qualified leads, or it could be authority in the space. So usually when I'm looking at partnering, I'm trying to dial in what are the three things that I'm looking for. One of the three. Now, it's very rare that you're going to get all three off of one partnership. So then I kind of quantify why I want to work with the person, what value can I I give them, and then go after the partnership. When I'm first getting started, I might not go after a revenue or a cash incentive. I'm usually looking for authority. And especially when I first started out, I just wanted to be known for something. So that's kind of where it really started. From there, it then was, okay, was my audience or what I provided good enough, or what they're looking for to scale? So, I mean, I'll stop talking there, but I would say starting with those three things and really understanding from me first, and not just reaching out and saying like, hey, I would love to work with you, because they're usually too busy, and you need to talk to the SaaS provider or whoever you're working with, whatever brand. You've already got to have rails on it. You've already got to figure out what does it look like? So it's like, oh, we would love to work together. No, I'd love to do a single event with you coming up in the next quarter to do X, Y, and Z. And that way they can decide like, yeah, that sounds great. And usually it's like a hook why you're going to be working with them. And then going from there.
Okay, so back to the first question. You wrote your list of the SaaS companies you already use, and you reached out to them. So what did that look like?
So there's a couple different ones. Usually, so I'm going to tell you, okay, I'm going to tell you what I did, but if I did it again, I'll tell you like what I would do.
All right.
The best thing that I would do is cold email, cold outreach just doesn't really work at the level. You have to put out the conversion rates. It's just like, I just don't want to deal with the conversion rates of having to reach out to 150. I'm going to get a 7% return, on people responding back. And then I got to go back and forth. I like warm leads. If I know someone that already works there, or we know someone that has a mutual friend, usually it's just the intro, honestly. So and I usually, if they can, make the intro for me. You can always like do LinkedIn, but I find, when I look at it, I'm like, do we have anyone in common? Like I just, don't get me started on LinkedIn and what it's become, but I know you love it. I'm not going to bash it, but anyway, the point is I just want to intro email. And then once they're already saying, hey, like Doc's awesome, Doc does this, it's like an easy play. When it's a cold outreach, like you just got to prepare to wait. Just wait, because think about if someone hits you up and you don't have an intro. Usually I'm not very motivated. It's got to be very specific. I mean, tell you the truth, all the inquiries really go to Sabrina now. So I don't, and then we talk about it, and then she's like, okay, do you want to do X, Y, Z? I'm like, okay, forward it over. So I just know how I am. So I know if I'm going to talk to one of these SaaS companies, I better know someone that knows someone there. I know them personally, or I got to make an insane kind of craziness to make an impression. For example, to get people's attention, sometimes I just buy them Amazon gift cards. Or like I find out where I know there's a little bit stalkerish, but I mean, if I already know they live in Manhattan or something, I already look for a place that is trendy and I already give them a gift card, like off the jump, because I'm like, oh, hey, I know you're probably looking at this. You're super busy. Maybe you'll read this email over lunch. Just bought you lunch real quick. Here's the link. And then people are just like, what in the world? Like, who is this guy? Like, what in the world is going on? So that's like, it's the same way. I mean, we can talk about it later. The same way, like how I get influencers using Cash App. I just drop like $75 or $100 to get them to be like, who just sent me $75? Like, it just like, people are just like, what the? So, it's kind of like a splash. But again, you can't be dropping 50, 75 for every single cold outreach. So you got to do things that work on your budget and things like that. So warm outreach. That's the key. That's the key.
Wow, I haven't even thought about that. That's amazing. That would definitely get my attention. It's like, who just gave me $75? Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And it's just something out of the ordinary, especially if you do all the work of like, it doesn't have to be like, if I know AppSumo, most people like in AppSumo, they live in Austin, right? Tons of people live in Austin. So if I already know that, I'm going to be like, hey, yeah, I found the top 5 places. Yeah. And I picked this number 1 or number 3 barbecue place. Heard it's a secret, blah, blah, blah. People are just going to be like, you did so much research just to know who I am. Yeah, that's what reaches out. And the same thing like with like Vayner. I think a lot of people have problems where they try to reach out to Gary first. And I'm like, his team's huge. I mean, I know he reads his emails, but like, bro, like you gotta hit up his team, not him. So, it's the same way. You look for the like low hanging fruit when you're doing that. And then from there, then we can go into like what I say and stuff like that. If you want to go that route, depends.
Well, yeah, because I have tools like Hexomatic. I think it's called Prelo, and it gives me a list of SaaS companies who just got funding, and all I need to do is reach out to them. But I have no clue really how to reach out to them.
Yeah. So it kind of depends on, send me that link. I think I know what you're talking about, but I would love to see it.
Yeah.
Basically, what I would do is I would look for announcements. If they just raise money, if they just are saying we're hiring, like and then from there, I think, what is it called? Crunchbase, I
Crunchbase.
think. They're all these things. Yeah, so Crunchbase, then I'll look at when they, like, how big is the company? When did they start taking funding? Is it private? If it's a series, is it pre-seed, series A, whatever. I start doing that. So that way I just have a topic conversation. So I know, like, if I'm trying to partner with them, hey, I noticed that you just raised your pre-seed. Congratulations. I know you're trying to get the word out. I'm a content creator, da 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 da. So if I'm a content creator, how can I leverage my audience for, this is a good fit for them? So I might do some of the work of like, hey, this is what you do. This is my audience. So I'm bridging the gap for them, not to say like, oh, I'd love to work with you. Let me know. I'm doing all the hard work. Hey, you're doing this kind of SaaS. This is my kind of audience. This is the format that I presented. I think people would really like it. Let me know, right? If you want to know more information. I'm not overwhelming them with like my demographics, my numbers, da 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 da. I'm just saying, like, I've already connected, like, this is a really useful tool. This is why it'd be good for my audience. And if I don't have an audience yet, but I'm consulting or something, it's still valuable, because some people think like you got to have a certain amount of numbers. No, because if you have a certain number of clients or your students, you can still say like, I work with clients and this is what I do. I onboard them with new SaaS tools. Like, I think you would be a great addition for my tech stack. And then that way they're just like, oh yeah, like, you've done all the work. You're basically a sales team for them that they don't have to pay for directly per hour or on salary. So you're just looking for what do they need, and then filling that need.
I like that. I have asked Chat and Bard what the SaaS companies need from a virtual event producer or a content creator. And it gave me a list, but I was still scared to reach out to people and it's like, hey, do you actually need these things that Chat and Bard told me that you need?
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. Okay, I'll cut to the chase. I was going to wait until the end of the show and talk about this. I think, along with being a producer, a virtual event producer, Steph Smith said this a long time ago on My First Million, but I really echo this. There's going to be a time where there's a chief automation officer. There's going to be a chief automation officer, or there will be some fancy title that a SaaS company decides to call it. You know so many tools in the automation. I think you should also look at that as an option,
Oh, yeah.
because you're already doing all this automation. You're already doing all these things. It's positioning, saying, hey, if it's Bardeen or anything you want to do, which is an automation tool for like, it's like a Chrome extension. I would either be looking to be an expert or a part of their expert program and leverage yourself doing that, because tons of people have all these tools and they're terrible at connecting it or understanding how everything works together. So I really think that's an offering that works really well in your skill house, skills. And then also too, that's in your like wheelhouse. I was trying to say wheelhouse. I'm like, skill house. That doesn't make any sense.
I thought you
But
were looking
yeah,
for skill set.
I was trying to say a lot of words there. It was a mixture. It was a bad one. But I just think that's where you could go with it, along with virtual events. I don't think you should drop it, but I'm like, as much as you're good with automation, all of this stuff, all these companies with automation trying to do it, That's the way to do it. That's what
You
I
know,
do.
I know how to automate a virtual event. So you
It's
just did a
exactly the thing.
virtual event with me in March. It's coming back 6 months later. So September, it's already done. All I need to do is promote it, chopped up, drip it out. It's like, hey, tickets are still available. Of course, the price has gone up because you should have been there live.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's great stuff. You can do that. I have no doubt. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
All you need is a scheduler. And yeah, I'm gonna use Hey Summit for that. It's already hooked up. All I need to do is like, hey, it's available.
I love it. I love to hear it. I love to hear it.
Okay, so you've hosted at least I want to say 3 events now for SaaS companies you've worked with.
Yeah.
Okay.
3+, I would say. Mhm.
Okay. So tell me about SaaS companies wanting to partner with you this time. How they reach out to you and it's like, hey, let me be a part of this event.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it kind of depends. Basically, you just make it real simple for them. Like you just do a no lose situation. So a lot of times, like so BuildCon was the like main one that I did for myself. And then once I had my own event, then let me make sure I'm answering the question correctly. Are you asking for how I threw my own events or how I made their events? Which one would you like to know?
Your event because they came to work
Yeah.
with you this time.
Yeah. So with BuildCon, basically I showed the value or like what the event was for, who it was for, and then connecting the dots the same way as me wanting to partner with them. It's like, this is why you should be showcased. And then from there, I was like, can I give away prizes? What am I looking for? I'm always looking for basically a lot of SaaS companies, they don't want to give away money, but they will give away like product licenses and things like that because it really doesn't cost them anything, right?
That's true.
So they're a lot more giving that way. So I'm like, hey, leading up, can I have this many licenses or this many deals per year or LTDs or something like that? Usually they'll do yearly stuff like that kind of things pretty easily. And then I'm thinking about on my end, like how does this elevate my brand if I'm bringing in these specific brands that come in as well? So that's kind of how it started. And there was some brands that I already did webinars or workshops with, and then it was like an easy next step. So it almost is like dating in a way because a lot of times they want to see if you're going to deliver, what's going on. So a lot of times if you just say like, hey, I need you to come in as a gold tier sponsor, they're just like, whoa, like how much is that? They always get that pushback or, when is this? So doing smaller events and seeing that it's fun and seeing that you have people and all those things, that seems to really be the bridging the gap. And then from there, just scaling it. So I had a couple different sponsors come out that way. And then once you have one event, people, as long as you keep it up and you can repurpose it like you do, Ericka, people will see that you're constantly on and want to do something. And then just going from there, like, so an example of like how this has progressed, and I'm going to be releasing a video on this. We did a couple of virtual events, and then because I was working on a documentary, we did the premiere of the documentary at NBA Summer League in July. And so
I saw
that was
that. It was very nice.
thank you. And I would never imagine like doing a movie premiere and all these things. Now, some people might say like, how's that even helping? Like, how's that content and like branding? Thing was, it was at Summer League. It was at NBA Summer League. So the association with the NBA, all of these different things, and then the leveraging. This is a really big thing. The project, we filmed it. My wife edited it. We did all the, by the way, then because of this, I'm not sure if I told you this story. Maybe I'm getting a little bit, if I'm going too like off the path, just let me know.
I
But
love your Sabrina stories because Sabrina is amazing and I wish I could see her more. But go ahead.
I tell her all the time, I'm like, she's just get her out of the office, message her, and she'll jump on the show if you want.
Right.
So this is the thing, right? So a year and a half ago, I was writing down like, what do I want to do? Like bar money, like what are the things I want to do? I wanted to create a documentary from start to finish. That's something that would be under the Brand Factory name And like, I just wanted that. And I knew that if it was high quality, it would open more doors. And so last year in 2022, I got the opportunity to showcase something called Sports Business Classroom, which is a program where people from around the world come to the NBA Summer League and they learn. It's a boot camp for them to get a job in the front office of an NBA team. And no one has really shown like the inner workings of this. And they're a great team. They're just small and they don't really showcase any of how special this is. So I was an alumni years before and I was like, hey, can I just go and film you guys and just show the process? And I think they really just didn't know what I was capable of and they didn't know if it was good. So they're like, yeah, whatever, if you can get in. So this shows another thing. They wouldn't give me my credential passes. So I didn't have NBA credentials to get into this event. And anyway, I went to this other seminar, it was done by a CIA agent, how to get into places and how not to be seen. Anyway, I pretended that I was maintenance. And that's how I got in every day. And I was just low key. Anyway, so I filmed it. Sabrina edited the whole thing. And then it came out in the beginning of 2023 and I sent it to them. And even though before they knew that I could do stuff with communities, I was good with like building websites, all these things. After the video came out, they're like, we need to hire you as our digital strategist. So I got a contract with NBA Summer League for 5 months to work with them in their marketing. So help them with all their sweepstakes for the LA Lakers, with the NBA, all those things. And then they're like, hey, we want to help you. What can we do? Because we like this documentary. How can we do this? They're like, well, we'll try to help you to find producers from Showtime and everything like that. But how about we even just premiere the documentary at Summer League? And I was like, oh, like, because you see how they're willing to leverage more things. They're like, how can we leverage our authority, our like reach? It might not be a full cash of like, we're going to pay you 6 figures for this documentary, but how can we help you showcase your skills? And so that's how we did the premiere there. Got tons of leads of different businesses. Again, that's now we've done a premiere at an event. And then that's
just one question, Doc. I got to stop you real quick. How did you know what you wanted to ask for? Did you know what you wanted to ask for before you finished the documentary?
Oh, that's a great question. For them, no.
Okay.
Because I knew if I could just deliver value and it was a big enough company, if I could make a splash, I knew whatever they offered, it was like that was going to be the next level. So I had no idea that they were going to offer the consulting job for 5 months. I didn't know that they were going to do the premiere. I was chasing high quality, and I knew that if I made them look good, they would want that to be shown because everyone wants to look good. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And again, Sabrina did the whole thing. And like Sabrina, for years, we were talking about it. Sabrina's like, I think I can like edit it. Sabrina she doesn't like going places to edit. She doesn't like going places to film. She loves editing. So I've seen her work in the past and I'm like, so we sat down and I'm like, yeah, I want it in this style. Like, these are the things, these are the hit points. And so I had all the utmost confidence. I'm like, yeah, you could do it. And so, yeah, that's what happened. So the answer is no, I didn't know, but I knew that anything with the NBA, I was like, even if they co-sign it or anything, I can use that on my resume. Like, I work with the NBA, like that's done, you know? Yeah. So I just knew that whatever they were offering, I can spin it up and make money. Like there was something like, even if they weren't going to give me any money, listen, that umbrella, I'll take that shade all day and start making money. So that's how it kind of came about. And then it went really well. And then from there, we started talking about, you know, what we'll do for next year. And then there's 2 more documentaries I'm planning on doing. So now there's a couple of things there. It's going to might be in basketball. It might be a little bit out there. So anyway, so that's what happened. That's how it happened.
Very nice. Sometimes I like to ask questions about ego, if ego has ever helped you further your career or get you what you wanted. But I'm not sure if this is ego or if it's confidence to have the audacity to say, hey, I'm maintenance, and then you got yourself in every time.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it's more confidence. I think it's confidence. Um, because ego, I think ego, I'll put you, this is a real good thing, right? There's always going to be someone that can out ego someone or macho and all these things. For me, I'm a counter fighter. I don't do this whole ego thing. I'll tell you what, actually, I flip it. Okay, so number one, I'll say I think it's confidence, and also so there's this event. So first of all, I used to sneak into events all the time. So that's just that's just a plain and simple. If you wear a suit and have a briefcase, very few people will ever question what you're doing. So I mean, I can tell you stories. I mean, this goes back years, probably a decade. Like I'd just been in so many places I wasn't supposed to just by not saying anything, not drawing attention to myself, having a briefcase and just a low level suit, not like a zoot suit where it's loud. Just have a suit, and people are like, oh, he's like, I don't know what he's doing, but like, we're not gonna bother him. It always works in fitness events because so many people are just like in tank tops and like the bros are out. So if you're wearing a suit, they're just like what in the world? Who's wearing a suit? Like maybe I don't know. So I've never had an issue with that. But I will say the ego thing is funny that you bring that up. I find that the more ego you have, or the more things that you have that's not confident, it can betray you. And I've seen it where people think that their ego, or like, do you know who I am? There's always going to be someone that's bigger. There's always going to be someone that like I can't even. I was at this event where someone just thought apparently he was the big like fish in the small pond, but when he went to the event, he was nothing, and he
Wow.
didn't know that he was talking to the organizer of the event, and he's getting in it like, so he was showing who he was and was being really boisterous, but he was actually talking down and yelling at the person that was the owner of the event. Now the owner of the event, he never said that he was. He doesn't, like, you wouldn't know unless you point it out. And there's a whole thing I love about that. But like you're coming to him, he just threw the guy out. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's always going to be those aspects. And I find that it's a really delicate balance. I find very few people that can carry an ego and be respectful or be really nice to people. Usually it doesn't go hand in hand.
Okay.
Very few people can't do that. So, and first of all, I'm nobody. I'm really nobody in the grand
I
scheme of
don't
things. So
believe
like
that.
it
Yeah,
just, but
I
it
don't
just
believe you.
doesn't. There is just, it pays you. I've never seen ego at the highest level. Like I've seen confidence. I'll give you an example. At the Arnold's. That's the event. Like it's the biggest spectacle event it has more athletes than the Olympics that come to Columbus, Ohio every year for the Arnold's.
Wow.
It's a spectacular thing. I was at this event, and excuse me, there was this, the lower level managers usually have this ego problem. But the owners of these companies, they're real chill, they're usually laid back, they're usually not wearing name badges or anything. They're kind of well dressed, but not really. They're wearing business casual. They will wear a business shirt, but not like a tie. Those are the killers. Those are the ones with money. And for the most part, they're not showing and being loud and pretending like they know everyone because they have silent confidence. They know why they're there. They know why they're invited there. And they carry themselves in a different demeanor. I find a lot of time where it's middle management, ones that have to show showy that they make a certain amount or they're this kind of prestigious level. They're the loudest ones. And so I try to avoid that because for the most part, they're more gatekeepers and they're not going to be able to co-sign what I want. They might have some influence. I'm still nice to them. But what I'm saying is, if you're showing that, oh, I'm supposed to be here, I'm this important, there's always going to be someone more important than you. There's always going to be. So just relax. Like you don't even need to go there. Be nice to people. Introduce yourself to everyone. One last thing. I'll say this last story. Last year at the NBA, when I didn't have my credentials, this year I got my credentials, so I was happy about that. But last year, I was coming from my Lyft driver. I come out and someone asked me. I had all my gear and everything, and there was someone that was working there, I think in parking, and they asked like, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh, I'm making a documentary. This is what I'm doing, all this stuff. He was talking about that he was a fighter. And I was like, oh yeah, because I knew like the fighting gym that he was at. And I was like, yeah, that's really good. Like, keep it up. Hope the training goes well, right?
Mhm.
So I'm trying to, again, sneak into the building. This is like an hour later. It's hot. I'm in Vegas now. It's almost 120 degrees. I'm in
Wow.
like full jeans. I'm got all my gear. And the guy I talked to a while ago when I got dropped off, he saw me and I'm around the building because I'm trying to sneak into the building. And he's like, oh no, he used his key card and he just let me into the building. He's like, yeah, have a great day. Like, the thing about if I was like, oh, this person's in parking, I'm not going to talk to him or da da da. I could have died right there. I could have been dead in Vegas right there. That's where my life could have ended because of that heat, And so I just think you never know who you're going to run into. I don't look for the opportunities of like, you have to talk to everyone because you never know who's going to be someone. I just think if you're a good person, it's going to reward you. The energies, the vibes are going to come back to you if you just are a nice person later on. And I think that comes from reaching out to other companies, reaching out and collaborating. You're going to attract the people you want. So just start now with everything.
I like that. I never really considered ego to be a bad thing. I just assumed that I know what I'm doing and other people should know that I can do this.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's that or acquired confidence. I don't know. The reason I bring that up is I think the problem is ego gets maybe a bad rap, but I think ego is it's a thin line of
Mhm.
that. And that's why I think silent confidence and going with that, maybe just for me and my thoughts, that's why I put it in a different category. Someone the other day was asking, like, they were asking about streaming and they're like, or do you think you're good at it? I think I'm top 3 in the United States of like building a streaming company. And they're like, well, I know this person from Netflix. And I was like, yeah, that's good. I said, I still think I'm top 3. And I'll tell you why, because I can go from building it to marketing it all as a one person show. I don't think many people can do that. I was like, I don't want to say I'm one, but I haven't met that person, but I know I'm top 3. And that's the thing. I'm not saying like, oh, all these other people, they're terrible. It's just like, just confident in those kind of things. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely believe you.
Yeah. And I'm always like, listen, I can be wrong. I can be wrong, but like, show me it. But I'll also say, and I think maybe also the Build With Me show showed me, I'd like to show vulnerability on my YouTube channel and on my streams, showing I don't know everything. Like I've heard some back in the day, some people didn't like it because like I would show like that I was struggling with certain things. I have no problem showing that I'm struggling with things because I'm showing the truth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if I don't understand something, I'm going to tell you like, yeah, I got to do research on something. This doesn't make sense. But also I was going to say that also works with SaaS companies because they know I'm honest because I'm like, watch my live stream. I'm like, I'm showing you in real time. I'm not going to kiss up to your company. If I don't think your onboarding is good, like, look, bro, I've onboarded more than 500 SaaS platforms. If your onboarding's off, you're going to know it because you're going to see me struggle with it. That's like not, I mean, so I think it kind of works both ways, but some companies aren't ready for that. I've had some companies that were like, take this video down because it looks like you struggled too much. Hey, as long as they pay me and they want me to take down a video, I'm fine with that. But I went on a tangent for a second, so I apologize,
No
Ericka.
worries. When I was asking about ego, I struggle with ego. Sometimes it works out for me and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes when people tell me no, I was like, I'm going to do it anyway to show you that I can do it. And they're all like, oh, I just got something for free. And that's it.
And see that's tough because I think some businesses or some people, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think being in marketing, you're manipulating everyone to a certain extent to get them to the end. So I don't think it's a problem. I just think especially newer SaaS or certain companies where they know that they have a talented person, they want someone to do it for free. I feel that sometimes manipulate people to do things to get stuff. And just identifying that this might be a trap. Like they might already know that you're good enough, but they might just want more things for free. So they're getting you to doubt yourself or to be upset enough to then do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a problem. That's a problem.
I met a couple of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's causing you, that's really then, do you have time for that? I always like, and actually I'm coming out with something coming up soon, but I think having a skills portfolio, that way when someone wants to tell you like you're not at this level, it's like, whoa, like I might not, maybe we're thinking of something different. Let me just put my portfolio down and you can make an assessment from there. By the way, when you have a portfolio, you might assess your portfolio is good enough. They might differ, but if you have a portfolio, you don't have to do all this free work for people that would be like, oh, I don't believe, no. Ain't nobody got time for that. Here's my resume. Here's what I've done. And it's more than I feel like it's a living, breathing resume, because resumes, people can gussy them up real well. They can use all these buzzwords, but a portfolio to show your work, very few people have ones that explain the story or will be able to show why they're worth X, Y, and Z. So I think having a skills portfolio, I'm really big on that. That's coming up soon on a new project I'm working on. But I think having people have multiple skills portfolios on different things, you can have anything for any time. Like I just re-up my drone license. So I have a new portfolio where when people need a drone pilot, boom, it's already done. I don't have to convince you. I don't have to show you my license. It's like, I passed my test. Here's my number, my license number, but here's all the stuff that we're going to do. Like yes or no, my prices. And so I think that allows people to have a portfolio of skills where they don't have to be one dimensional. On my resume, I have like 7 different resumes because people in real time, people don't believe all the things I've done because they've dealt with a lot of liars and I've done a lot of things. So they don't think that it's possible that I've done all those things. So I don't even try to convince them. I just don't tell them I've done it. I just have different career portfolios or skill portfolios, and then we're off to the races.
Like I said before, your time management skills are amazing. I know you've done a lot of things, like to have the focus to do it, say you're going to do it, actually do it, and then follow through with it. That's some great time management skills.
Well, thank you. Only on the backs of other people's stuff, but I will take that. I'll take that.
All right. Well, tell us what are you working on? What's coming up for you? Is it something with Brand Factory?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Okay. So there's 2 different sections. Talking to Sabrina about this the other day. Sabrina's like, why are you making another thing? Like, why don't you just put it under Brand Factory? She's always telling me to stop making new things. Whatever. So this is what it is. So either it's going to be something under Brand Factory or it will be a totally different brand. I think it's going to be a different brand because I'm like, if I think where it can go, I think I can sell this portion off. So that's why I want it to be its own brand under Brand Factory. But basically, like we talked about, I think there's a lot of people that are trying to figure out how to package their skills and make money. And the thing that comes down to it, like the common denominator is how well is your packaging for people to understand what you do, and building that portfolio for people to already know that you're skilled, and then you're not negotiating the pricing. They're just saying, what's next? I see you're skilled. How can we work together? And I think people are missing that. There's a disconnect. And the missing link that I see is creating curated content that works for your brand. And so that's what I'm really about, teaching people how to package their content and to then have that as your calling card to build that out. Now, what does that look like? I think people need to understand how to identify their skill, how to package it, how to display it. And so I have this thing, I'm debating on it, but it's basically DIY media makers. I think everyone in this time and space.
That.
Thank you. I think everyone is a media company. I think everyone is a mini media company to get gig work, to get hired, to do all these things. I mean, I think I'm living proof of it. I've seen tons of other people do it, but I just don't see people like understanding how to do it. I'll give you an example. Like there's this person that came up to me. They're like a freelancer. And they're like, I wish I could just tell people, like, I wish I told them like how bad freelancing actually is and like what I would do differently. But he's like, I don't know the tech. I don't know how I should present myself, all those things. And I'm like, this, and this. So like having the packaging for people to understand, like, you're at this level, maybe you just need Loom. Stop worrying about like all these other things. Maybe you just need to, if you're stressing about gear and what camera and you broke and you don't want to do this stuff, like turn on your webcam and like do these things. So like teaching those things. So I think I think it's going to be a separate YouTube channel because the tech reviews and what I do for the Doc Williams channel, it's so tech and SaaS based. I think this is so content and media based. I think it's going to confuse the audiences. So that's why it needs to be a separate channel in itself, focused just on creating your own media company. That's number one, what I'm working on.
Okay. And I was just about to ask, how did you know how to separate what you're doing instead of putting it under the umbrella of a brand factory or making it like a playlist on Build With Me or something like that. So thanks
That's
for
good.
that.
Yeah. I mean, it's too different. And I'm looking at my demographics and, I used to fight this a long time. Like, it's okay when you're experimenting, but like the analytics will really tell you like what is going for your, I'll just put it this way. If you read the YouTube formula by Daryl Eves, we've talked about it in a YouTube group. I might come up with a YouTube group, might be coming back because I'm doing DIY media makers. The
I
reality,
love the YouTube group.
see, I think you're going to love this. So we're going to be talking about it in a couple of weeks. But the main thing is the numbers aren't going to lie to you. And every time that I kept putting other content that was different, my subscribers dropped because it's not the content that they're expecting on that channel. And last month, when I do the least amount of videos on that channel, but it was focused on a certain topic, highest subscribers on that month. Less content, it just like popped. And again, I was being stubborn because I'm like, no, I know my audience, they want to know both. But the reality is the one channel wants to know how to create a online, like create an app, create something SaaS and tech. A lot of times, even though in my head, it makes sense for content creation and you need to think about marketing and think about getting your name out there, you need to have more content and that's why you need to create it. Marketing and creating this media company has to live somewhere else. And I'm more excited and I can go deeper on those subjects. And so it just needs to be its own channel.
Yeah. Now that I hear you say that, it makes sense to me because I've been wondering if I should separate my live streaming show from my virtual event show. So, like in my mind, you can do both together, but a live stream show is not a virtual event. Some people will say it is, and some people say it's not. But you have those two camps of people say yay and nay.
Yeah. And the numbers are going to tell you, a lot of people like the Build With Me show, right? And they love the format. The reality is I can do one a quarter and it won't hurt the channel and it's fine. But also I look at the numbers and it's just time and attention. Most people can't sit through the whole thing. The reality is most people from my audience can sit through something around 8 minutes to about 18 minutes. That's the sweet spot. And so like, why am I going to force if I know what's happening on the analytics? If I want to do something, if I like it, I can tell people and I can have a secret stream or something like that. But like, I'm not stressing about all these other things or it has to work this way. Like, what does the data tell you? Go from there. One last thing, just like the data tells you, this has happened the last 8 months, how I brand myself. I thought it was a really old like terminology, but digital strategist, people will pay me way more if I just brand myself as a digital strategist. I think it's a dumb name. I think it's an old school name. I don't really like to be called that. But once again, I mean, you can call me a custodian, a garbage man, whatever. As long as you pay me what I want, you can do whatever you want. So if digital strategist, I just never thought that was going to be a thing again. But I have seen where people will hire me on the rate I want as a digital strategist than any other term that I've used. So that's why I'm using it again.
The power of words.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, it's more power to you. Yeah. If that's what gets you and you think that's what, I should be called for you to pay me a certain amount, I'll be called that all day.
Yeah. Well, Doc, tell everyone where can they find you? What's your favorite social media channel?
Favorite social is YouTube. So youtube.com/Doc Williams, DOC Williams. I'm on Twitter. I will not call it the other name. I'm on Twitter _Doc Williams for the time being. But YouTube, I'm always there. I'll answer any questions. You can find me there. People want to hire me. There's a link over there as well. I do limited consulting. So you'll get all of the information for strategy calls at that location.
All right. I asked Elon Musk, was the brand Twitter up for sale since they rebranded? Now, I wouldn't want to throw away a good established brand. So I asked, was it available for purchase? So I got no response, but it's out there. So
I love it. Put it out there. Put the energy out there. I think he's going to hold on to it. I mean, I think at this point he's just being obstinate and like showing like he had some master plan. I just don't think he did. And I think it's a horrible rebrand. I think everything's bad about it. But I'm going to keep using it as Twitter. And that's it. That's it. Have you even seen people how they're doing all the things with people are changing the icon back on their phone? Like there's whole tech articles of just switching it back so it doesn't look like X. I'm just like, whatever. He can call whatever. I like that format the best because Twitter is just ridiculous. And I know some people find that it's a dumpster fire, and a lot of places it are. But the no-code community and the NBA community, like until I find a better platform, I got to stay with Twitter. That's just the bottom line.
So me talking with ChatGPT, it did tell me that Twitter is the best place to speak directly with SaaS I can't even say it now. Founders.
Founders, really? SaaS founder. I didn't know that. I agree with it though.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that.
So Twitter is where we can reach out to you.
Yep, Twitter and YouTube. Twitter and
YouTube. All right. Well, thank you, Doc. I appreciate your time hanging out with us, sharing your knowledge.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.